Welcome, Facebookers. Today, finally, I have the amazing Lyndall back. We are going to talk all things ticks and fleas for your puppies today because it's coming back into the crazy season of all of these amazing beings being really, really active on the planet and us getting out there and being active as well. Um, so I'd like to introduce Lyndall. If you don't know her, Lyndall is the owner of Canine Vitality, and she's based in Brisbane but does a lot of work online as well. She's an animal naturopath and an amazing soul. G'day, Lyndall. So what are we talking about today?
Hi, Kelly. How are you? Today we're just talking about the issues around some of the general issues around using the chemical flea, tick and worming products that are on the market that most of your listeners would be probably familiar with, and some more natural, effective alternatives that we can use instead of always using those chemicals, which, is something that I feel is quite important because I'm getting a lot of clients and customers coming to me with that request. So that's what I thought we would discuss today because I know for most dog owners it's a really big thing. So
Okay. So what alternatives are there? Let's just start straight onto it.
yeah. So there are a number of different alternatives, and I suppose I'll talk today about the products that I'm utilising because there are, other alternatives that your listeners might know of or have read about. But when I'm looking at treating fleas, ticks, and worms, I have a couple of products that I produce myself, and also a product that I utilise from the lovely Jenny Goldsby, who owns the Complete Pet Company. Now, the Complete Pet Company is where my clinic is based here in Brisbane, in Enoggera. I actually practice within the shop here. And Jenny, in terms of fleas and ticks, Jenny formulated a product a number of years ago, which is a homeopathic flea and tick remedy. This is a really fantastic product. It can be added simply into your dog's water bowl every day, just once a day, and it actually helps to build the immunity against fleas and ticks naturally. And it's a very it's definitely a chemical-free product and very safe, but extremely effective. Over the years, Jenny and I on-sell that, of course, through my clinic too. We both get very good feedback with that product. It's very effective. Now, we do know that there's nothing, for your listeners that are concerned with paralysis ticks, which is the biggest issue, there is nothing on the market that can offer a 100% guarantee, whether it's chemical or natural. So what we recommend with that product is to always check your dog every day for ticks, and obviously fleas too, but ticks being more, problematic. And that means checking all over their body.
I was going to say, is there specific areas that I know that I was always taught under the arms and the ears and stuff?
Yep.
Is there specific areas that you recommend that they look at?
Yeah, ticks tend to be more around the the neck and head area, but they can really attach anywhere. But some of the sort of sneaky little places that they like to get into, Kelly, are in the ear folds. So you want to be checking all into the ear, inner ear and the little flappy bits on the side. They will actually, in some cases, attach along the gum line. So it's always important to actually look in your dog's mouth because they can attach along that gum line there. Of course, anywhere on the head and neck area, they'll often be around, sort of that where if your dog's got a collar on that collar area. Certainly under the arms or in between the toes, in the webbing of the feet. The other area is around the backside area, around the anal area. They can be under the tail. They can be attaching there, and obviously anywhere else really. But those sort of, they can even be. I've had a couple of clients who've had them on the eye, around the eye area as well. So they can be really sneaky, and they can be hiding in basically any little nook or crevice on your dog's body. So it's important to kind of get your dog used to being checked every day so they're comfortable with you touching them all over, and just checking those particular areas as well. And if your dog's got a really long coat, that can be a little bit harder, but just sort of working slowly down through the coat and just getting used to what's normal for your dog, and if there are any lumps and bumps that your dog normally has, just making sure you don't confuse those with the tick and so forth. So they're the main areas.
If they do have a tick, let's I suppose talk about that first too. what are the symptoms? What are the warning signs that they need to go, oh,
Yeah,
something?
it varies a little bit, but classically, and it does depend on how long the tick has been on there, because the longer it's on there, the more the toxin is going into the dog's body. But generally, you will see signs such as, there may be a cough or difficulty in like a laboured breathing. As you may, I've had clients say to me, all they noticed was that the dog was having some vomiting, which didn't appear to be related to anything else. There can be definitely hind leg weakness, which will turn to paralysis over time, hence the name paralysis tick, because that's essentially what that toxin's doing. It's a neurotoxin which is slowly paralysing the dog. So as it progresses, these sorts of symptoms become more pronounced, and by the time you're seeing that hind leg weakness and paralysis, the dog is generally in a pretty bad way. So I suppose in terms of if your dog has a tick that, if you find a paralysis tick on your dog, the thing to do is to, once that tick has been removed correctly, and generally I would use, there are little tick removers and little devices that you can get to remove the tick from the dog's body, but you can also put, for example, maybe a little drop of tea tree or something like that directly on the tick to sort of kill it before you remove it. But what you want to be doing is to actually start monitoring your dog. I do also offer an acute tick remedy, which is a homeopathic remedy that can be given every 15 to 30 minutes if your dog has taken a tick, and I find that that's very effective at offsetting those reactions. And you would just continue to use that remedy and monitor your dog, or some people will take their dog directly to the vet. I tend to sort of say to people, look, just keep monitoring, and if you're noticing any signs, then of course you can go straight to your vet and get further assistance.
Tell me that she used high levels, like high doses of vitamin C. Do you know anything
Yep.
about that?
Yeah, I've used that as well. So yeah, that can be effective. So things like snake bites, tick bites, they do respond well to vitamin C. Often intravenous vitamin C is the best way to go there, but we don't always have that available. So if you can get the vitamin C powder into your dog through just orally, that will help. Sometimes you can syringe it down. Sorry?
Can they overdose on the vitamin C? Like, is that too much?
They can, but generally with vitamin C, particularly if it's needed, the body's level, I mean, dogs do produce their own vitamin C, as we know, but yes, they do need more in certain situations. Generally speaking, if there's too much vitamin C in the system, the body will just eliminate it through the bowel, and you'll get what's called bowel tolerance, which is where you get a bit of diarrhea. So if your dog was starting to show signs of that, it may be worthwhile cutting the vitamin C back a little bit. But you can sort of give a reasonable amount to those dogs, especially when they've got those early signs of tick poisoning. And that incorporation with something like the tick remedy that I have can be very helpful. And I've actually seen that alone reverse tick poisoning without the need to actually go to a vet and have a very expensive tick antidote given. So, yeah.
Okay. So that when would you suggest that they go to a vet?
Yeah. How long is a piece of string? Look, I think you need to be sensible. Of course, I don't advocate just sitting back and doing nothing. It's about watching your dog. If you're seeing, it does depend on if you're using anything natural. So if you're not using anything natural, but you're just monitoring your dog, usually the symptoms are going to come on fairly quickly within sort of 12 to 24 hours, maybe a little bit longer for some dogs. And of course, if you're starting to see those signs and you have no other natural things to help you, then you're going to make that trip to the vet. If your dog is using something, if you're using something natural and you're monitoring the dog and they seem to be going okay, it is then just a matter of continuing to monitor. And if you're seeing a downhill slide, then yes, once again, off to your vet you would go. So we do certainly advocate using your vet in these emergency situations, but definitely not every dog dies from paralysis ticks, and not every dog has ongoing issues post-paralysis ticks. So it is very individual to the dog.
What kind of ticks do people need to be worried about? Because I
Well,
know
the
you've got those
paralysis tick.
ones, the paralysis. There's quite a few, and I've got a picture of it. So everyone, I'll post it underneath the video when I find
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Which ones are we concerned about? Like, I mean, you want to take all of them off, obviously, but
Yeah, I mean, there are every tick can be problematic, but really the biggest one, particularly on the eastern coast of Australia, is the paralysis tick, which has it's got like a grey sort of a colour, and that is the one that is causing the biggest, that causes the biggest problems. Other ticks like your bush ticks and those similar sort of smaller brown ticks, they're not any tick can spread disease, of course, we know that, but they are less problematic. So most, of course, you would take them off, but they generally don't cause problems in dogs in the way that a paralysis tick can. So that would be the one that most people would be aware of, that most vets are telling their clients about, and that's what most of the media attention would be around, that paralysis tick. That is around all year. It's there all throughout the year, but it will tend to be more prevalent through the warmer months as the weather's warming up. So yeah.
So okay, let's come back to preventative, like what we were talking about before. What are your, I suppose, why is the natural version better than the chemical, or the one most vets or pet
Yeah.
shops? What's the comparison, the pros and cons?
Yeah. So one of the biggest issues you've got with the conventional products, and if we're just talking fleas and ticks for a moment, because most people are using these conventional products for that specifically, that's the biggest thing that people are concerned about. Any of the commercial products that are available through pet stores, your veterinary clinics, all the various brands that are on the market, and let's face it, there's heaps of them these days. They are all chemical-based pesticides. They're pesticides. So essentially, these are poisons that you're putting into your dog's body or onto your dog's body. So they come in a variety of forms. They are, monthly chews, spot-on treatments where you actually apply onto the back of the neck. Excuse me. There are tablets. There are various, and there are even medicated washes as well. So all of those products, whether they go into your dog's body or whether they go onto the dog's body on the skin, are still going to be affecting the internal environment of your dog. So you can imagine that if you were to ingest pesticides yourself over a period of time, and we are giving these products generally monthly to 3 monthly, there's got to be some negative impact on that. So the problems that I see in clinic with that, and I see a lot of these, are negative reactions to these chemicals that we're putting in our dog's body on a consistent, regular, day in, day, not day in, day, but year in, year out basis. And a lot of the problems that I'm seeing are, reactions such as skin problems, digestive issues, seizures is a really big one, so neurological changes. And that comes back to what I was saying before about the pesticides that are basically what they call neurotoxins, which affect the nervous system of the parasite, but they also affect, unfortunately, the nervous system of the dog that's being given the product. Vomiting, diarrhea is another problem, even through to dogs that are dying from some of these products. So, there are many different reactions that dogs are having, and sometimes it's an immediate reaction, sometimes it's a cumulative reaction over time. So particularly in dogs, as they're getting older, they're getting less tolerant to these products. So that for me is a bigger issue than the need to protect from paralysis ticks or heartworm or anything like that. And I don't say that flippantly. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be protecting their animals against these parasites, but the far greater risk is the toxicity from these products. So we want to try and move away from that.
The reason you do it every 3 months is because that product is within their body for 3 months, and then when it's not in their body anymore and not functioning, you put more on. So
yeah,
that makes sense. That it's building up in their body. That's actually what it's made to do, isn't it?
Yeah, and yeah, and it is something that even though you're doing it every month, these products are still it doesn't sort of, at the end of the month, if you've had that product in your dog system for a month, at the end of that month, it doesn't automatically just dissipate out of the system. I mean, obviously the active ingredient has worn off to some degree, but the residual effect of that is still in the body. There's still toxicity in the body from that product that has, and if you can imagine that each month over a period, and I've had many clients come to me that have had their dogs on these products for 8 to 10 years every month ongoing, and they're coming with all sorts of chronic problems. And if you trace it back, in part, these products are, one of the contributing factors that I see.
Is there a way that you can do it environmentally? Like, um, I know my dog, she's had fleas twice in her life when I got her, and then once when we went to a place. But where I live, there are no fleas. So because she's a rat bag and she doesn't get to socialise very much, so she's just never had fleas. Occasionally had a couple of ticks, we just pull them off. But that's sort of making me think, environmentally where we live, she's not. I've never had to worry about it. So is there different products that that you can use, like to be able to kill the fleas in the sand and stuff like that? Or is that just about sleeping and walking on pesticides again?
There are certainly products that you can use. So one of the products that we recommend here, and Jenny sells in the shop, and actually we use it a lot, like we recommend it a lot, is a product called diatomaceous earth. And diatomaceous earth comes in two different forms. It comes in what's called an industrial grade, or a pool, to use in pools actually. So that's not the one that you want to use because that is toxic, but the food grade diatomaceous earth is extremely effective for fleas in particular. So diatomaceous earth can be used directly to dust onto your dog's body. Obviously not on, avoiding the face area, but you can dust it through the coat and it will kill fleas that way. And the way that it actually kills fleas is that it actually slices through, because it's very fine. It's a dust, it's a powder, and you wouldn't see this unless you were looking at it under a microscope. But it has quite razor sharp particles that can slice through the hard shell or the exoskeleton of the flea, and that basically once the shell of this flea has been opened, they dehydrate and die. So that's how it kills the flea. So it does kill from a sort of a more natural perspective in that sense. But you can be dusting that through your house, through your, you can put it on the ground outside in areas if you know that you've got, fleas maybe under your house or something like that. There are some other things that you can use as well, but that's one thing that you can use, and that is very, once you've dusted it through your house, you can let it sit for a while and then just vacuum it up, and you can do that quite regularly if you've got a bit of a flea issue, because if you've got one flea on your dog, you've got 100 or more somewhere around your dog. So that there's going to be more than just the fleas that are actually on your pet. And the other important thing, I suppose, Kelly, is that it's really important to keep your dog's immune system strong, because when you build their immune system through a whole way, through a manner of doing natural diet and reducing chemicals and all these sorts of things, their natural immune response is boosted, and so they are more able to, to fight off any sort of parasite. So there's a saying that parasites always gravitate to the weakest host, the host being your dog. And what that means is that if your dog is not strong and healthy and have a really robust immune system, then parasites tend to gravitate to that and know that they're going to get a better deal by attaching to that.
Parasites are, aren't they? They come. I don't even know in our body. I've always worked with that. Like if people are full of parasites, it's building up. Yeah, their immunities and stuff like that. So the parasites don't have the rubbish there that is like they're a removal. They're the world's garbage system, really, aren't they? We all say that they're horrible.
Exactly.
Right? There's a definite purpose for them. That makes a lot of sense to me, actually.
Yes. So if you've got a really toxic system, that's just a field day for any parasite. They can get in there and, as you say, start to have a bit of a party. So the cleaner the body, the cleaner the system, the stronger the immune system, the less likely your dog is to be bothered by anything at all. They can even be standing next to a dog that is flea ridden and not get one flea on them, just because they've got this very strong, robust, healthy, clean system. And that's, for me, much more important than using these chemical products. I think obviously I use my natural products and recommend them all the time, but it's really way more important for me to work with that dog and get that immune response strong and get the system clean, and then you have less need to use anything at all. So it's that's an important part of it.
So coming into, let's talk about the natural products and the pros and cons of those as well. So I'm just going to put up your website underneath you.
Sorry, just didn't catch that, Kelly. Sorry.
I'm kind of talking to myself here. Hold on. Did that work? I'm trying to put up the website. Hold on. So can you, while I'm trying to do this, can you tell us about some of the natural products that do work and maybe their pros and cons,
Yep.
What we're going to find when they...
Yep. So I've talked a little bit about the flea and tick product that Jenny makes that I sell through my clinic. So that covers fleas and ticks. I produce a herbal intestinal wormer. So that would replace products similar to Drontal, Milbamax, some of those more chemical-based worming products. Now, these are in tinctures, so they're liquid herbal drops that you add into your dog's food at a certain regime. Now, the herbal wormer, intestinal wormer, generally speaking, the way that I would recommend that is to be given twice a day for 3 days per month around the time of the full moon, because we know that worms, like any parasite, are more active when the moon is at its fullest. So they tend to be breeding more, so you're going to be getting a better result by worming around the full moon. So that product can be added into your dog's food, of any food at all. And twice a day for 3 days is all you really need. And I actually do encourage, even though on the label I say every month, and I've got many clients who use it every month, I try to actually get people, especially if their dog is already on a really good raw diet, to not do it quite as often, maybe only every 3 months, because the better the diet, if they're on a really good raw diet, they really won't be needing to be wormed as often. I suppose that the only downside to that product and the heartworm product I do is that it's probably not as convenient for your listeners as the once a month all-in-one product. It's impossible to produce an all-in-one product that will cover fleas, ticks, worms, heartworms. It's from a natural perspective, it's just something that we can't really do. So combining my intestinal wormer and my herbal heartworm formula, which I'll talk about in a minute, with the flea and tick drops that I on-sell through the clinic, those 3 products cover everything. And I would say virtually, virtually all of my clients are on those products because they don't want to be using chemicals. Now, the heartworm, Kelly, is a little bit different. That is a herbal and homeopathic formula, and it needs to be given a little bit more frequently. It does contain the heartworm no-so, which is at a low 6C potency, so it can be given frequently. And that is designed to actually build your dog's immune system against heartworm and have a repelling action against the actual heartworm itself. That product is, once again, it's a liquid product, a liquid tincture that you add into their food 3 days a week. So it's a single dose, 3 days a week. So it's a little bit different to using the intestinal wormer. And that is extremely effective as well against heartworms. So that, in combination with the wormer and then the flea and tick, as I said, those 3 products cover all of the common parasites that our dogs are exposed to. And as I said, probably the only downside I can see is that they're just not quite as convenient. But the upside is that you're using a chemical-free product that's highly effective. So you're not putting chemicals into your dog's body, but you're keeping them safe from these little critters. And you're also building health. These products actually do build your dog's health as well. So they're building a strong immune system.
With the convenience and that, people feed their dog every night. Like, you change their water every day, and
that's right.
Most days anyway. So that convenience factor. Do the dogs like it, or is it? I mean, I think that'd be quite individual, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it is. Look, very few dogs have an issue with taking the herbs, in particular. The flea drops are not a problem because being homeopathic, they are almost tasteless. And if you put them in the water bowl, the dogs are generally not going to taste anything. The herbs are very well tolerated. There are a few dogs that can be a little bit fussy with the taste, and there are a few little tips and tricks around that I work with people one-on-one to help them with that. But generally, they're well tolerated. And yeah, I guess getting back to that convenience thing, you are absolutely right in what you're saying. And the interesting thing for me is when I started producing the worming and the heartworm formulas a number of years ago, that was my own concern. I thought to myself, well, people are going to start to think, well, this is a bit of a hassle. But the interesting thing is that I've never, ever had one complaint from people over the years that they've got to use this product more regularly than the convenient once a month product. And I think the reason for that is that they're actually feeling pretty good about not using the chemicals, and they're quite happy to do that. It's a small price to pay for, using, for getting a big gain in your dog's health. So, yeah. And cost-wise, they actually do come out, depending on the product, but generally cost-wise, they come out a lot cheaper than the other products that that your listeners might be using on a monthly basis in terms of, fleas, ticks, and worms. So they are generally cheaper.
You sell them in a kit, so people get them, or is it just easy just for them to pick which one they want at what time?
Yeah, I generally don't sell them as a kit per se. I used to actually do that as a bit of I used to do a starters kit, but these days most people are just happy to purchase what they need when they need it. The thing with each product is that they don't all last the same length of time, and that's just because of the nature of how you prescribe it. So you're always going to get a lot longer out of an intestinal wormer, for example, than the heartworm. You're going to go through the heartworm a little bit more quickly. So it's really dependent on, the weight of the dog, because obviously a small dog is going to use a lot less than a large dog. Some people don't want to start on all products at once. They want to just start on one product. So I sort of just work with people where they're at. And over time, what most people do is they just go to the whole, they use the 3 products.
So which one do you suggest that if they're going to use one just to start, which one do you suggest? Probably the tick, which one?
Yeah, it's generally it's going to be either the flea and tick that people ask me about, which is the one that I sell through the clinics from Jenny's shop, or it's going to be my heartworm formula, because most people are less worried about worms, intestinal worms. They don't seem to be too concerned about that. So that is the product that I sell a lot of it still, but it's the one that's not quite as popular as the other 2. So I suppose depending on what people are more concerned about, it's usually going to be heartworm or ticks. They're the 2 biggest things that people are worried about. And I suppose that's when they make the decision, I'll just start with one. It might be just the heartworm, or it might be just the flea and tick product. Along with the flea and tick, often people will also ask me to sell them the little acute tick remedy that I do as well. It's a good little remedy to have on hand should your dog ever get a tick, and that can be used just for those times in acute situations where the dog has the tick, has actually taken a tick.
And I put Lyndall's website address up on here, so if you're just curious about prices and want to have a little bit of a look and a read, please go through and have it doesn't hurt to have a bit of a browse in your squids.
Yep.
So I suppose to sum it all up, what's your best advice coming into this next? I know, as you said, that you can get ticks anytime during the year, but especially in Queensland, Australia, this is the season for filling up your little Vegemite jar full. So everybody remembers that if you had dogs as a kid, I think a little bit of metho in the bottom of a Vegemite jar. When you I don't know. Did you ever do that?
No, I actually didn't, but yeah, I've heard of people who've done that.
West thing. Anyway, so what's your advice for this coming season? Just really simple and concise.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for people is to firstly always check your dog. check your dog. Start to get, if you're not used to checking your dog daily, get used to checking your dog daily. And also, Kelly, get used to what is normal for your dog and what is not. Start feeling over your dog's body. And, some dogs will have, as I said before, some dogs might have a couple of lumps and bumps here and there, and just getting used to what they feel like and what is normal. So then when you actually feel over your dog, you notice something new. And this probably applies for anything, but obviously we're talking about ticks, but it could be anything. If you notice something different, then you're aware of it. So that's the first thing. Get used to checking your dog every day. Doesn't matter what product you use. I think secondly, considering looking at some natural options aside from the products that I produce. Of course, there are, we talked a little bit about diatomaceous earth that we sell through the shop here. There are obviously some natural sprays, essential oil type sprays that you can use as repellents. There's a number of different things that you can use that way. So your listeners might want to be looking into considering some more natural options for your dogs, to cover these sorts of issues, whether it's using my products or it's just using something else that's not chemical based, because just the chemical, we've talked about the chemicals, but they are just so problematic for dogs over the long term. So that's the second thing, just making a consideration to change, to look at something new. And I suppose the third thing is just be generally mindful of your dog's immune system. Understand that a dog has an immune system for a reason, just as we do. And the immune system is it's a defense mechanism. So a dog has an innate defense mechanism against diseases and parasites and all sorts of things like that. Mother Nature has created that for the dog. And so we want to work with that to keep that strong and healthy by feeding a natural diet, by reducing chemicals, by reducing stress, all these sorts of things. So I think they're the three things that you want to be mindful of. Get used to checking your dog. Consider, reducing the chemical load and being aware of keeping that immune system nice and healthy. And if you do those things over a period of time, you are going to get, it's going to pay dividends for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we have one more session next week. What are we going to just do a general health one next week, so people can put in some questions? And I've had a couple of questions about tumors in their dogs and stuff, which sort of hasn't really come up in this. So can we just
that would be fine. I thought we might touch on vaccination as well a little bit, if that's all right. I know that's another issue for a lot of people as well. Bit contentious, but yeah, we can talk about that and some alternatives. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. So everyone, make sure you like Canine Vitality and Joyous Earth, and so you can keep up to date with the different videos and stuff that we're putting out, and Lyndall's amazing work.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys all again next Thursday at 11 o'clock.
Yep.
And we've actually got a bit of a surprise, I think. I'm probably preempting you, Lyndall, but a bit of a surprise at the end of that. So for all of you beautiful dog owners out there who, need a little bit more love and support, I'll tell you more about it next week. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Remember, like Joyous Earth and like Canine Vitality, it really, really helps us. See ya.
Bye.